Welcome to the Filmmaker's 412 podcast. I'm your host, Michael Ray. Today's guest is actress and filmmaker Delaney Hathaway. On today's episode, we talk about her thoughts on becoming an up-and-coming actress, her directing challenges, and we talk about working with an acting coach. Here's the interview with Delaney Hathaway. Delaney, thank you for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So this is a lot of fun for me. I've been learning all kind of stuff about all kind of different people. So tell me, how did you get involved with, first of all, are you an actress or are you an actress/filmmaker?
I think I kind of fall into all of the categories, minus the writing category, because that's not my strong suit. I have great ideas that I pass off to other people. But as
like my wife does that, and she has the idea, and I have to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is for myself as well. But no, I started acting when I was young. I've been in the performing arts category since I was 3, starting out with dance, and then moved into baton and gymnastics, and then acting on top of that. So that was kind of all simultaneous. That was when I lived in Michigan, I've moved around a lot, so this story kind of takes place over a long period of time. So when I was in Michigan, that's kind of where I started it all. There was a liberal arts college not too far from where my family lived, so I was able to kind of walk there for rehearsals, and we always did the summer programs, my friends and I, when we were growing up. And then when I moved to Fort Wayne, that kind of stopped because I wasn't familiar with where everything was and how everything worked. Fort Wayne was about 4 or 5 times bigger than where we were in Michigan. So going from a small town to a decently sized town, it was very overwhelming. So I kind of took a step back, and it wasn't until high school when I met my high school theater teacher, who was a character. Loved him so much. And I happened to just take the class because I needed a space filler. It wasn't like that's acting. I definitely want to take that. It's just, okay, here's an extra space. I need to just fill this credit. And it made me fall in love with it all over again. Because of that, then I got into film specifically, and I did my first feature when I was a sophomore.
Really?
Yeah, it was fun.
Was it around here somewhere?
Nope, it was in Indiana. It was a small company called Open Sign Productions. My first company, I actually worked for them and with them for about 4 years after we got started together. Yeah, that was an experience. That was my first feature. It was a psychological thriller.
So what was your part?
I was the lead, actually.
Whoa.
I know. It was, oh my gosh, it was a process. I remember going in to the audition. I was the second person to audition for the entire production. And the only reason why I got in was because I was dating somebody at the time whose best friend worked for the company. So I was like, connections, yes, going
Nepotism.
on. Yeah. So that happened. My audition was in February, and then I didn't hear anything from them for like 2.5 months. So I was like, okay, I didn't get it. This is my first, feature. It's not a big deal. I was a little bummed, but it was okay. And nope, April comes around, and they're like, so we realized that we haven't talked to you in a really long time, and that's partly because when you auditioned for us, we weren't really like auditioning people. However, we're now full swing auditioning people, and we want you to come back in for a callback. And my mind was like, what? They want me back?
So is this a Hollywood thing, or was this like a local thing?
This is just a small independent company out of Fort Wayne. I want to say they were kind of the original filmmaking group there that have like themselves established. And this was their first feature. They had done a bunch of shorts and small things here and there before that. But it did really well. It went to a couple of festivals. It got nominated for like 6 different awards.
So when they filmed this, you were still in high school, right?
Still in high school.
So did they film it just on the weekends, or did they film it during the week?
Both.
So you had to miss school for it?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I had to miss school for it. It was fun because at the same time I was in show choir, which... Do you know what show choir is? Okay. It's not really a big thing on Western Pennsylvania. If you go East Pennsylvania, that's where they start getting into the big, shows and stuff. But it's basically like a swing choir. But
what's a swing choir?
You don't have a swing choir.
Step back.
That's okay. Okay, so swing choir is when the members usually dance and sing at the same time, almost like a concert, like a putting on a full-on concert,
Okay.
but it's more along the lines of show tunes. Recently, though, in like modern times, they've incorporated more like pop songs into it. But you normally have a theme that you're following throughout the whole show, and it like you have an opener, and then you have like a second number, and then a ballad, and then usually a guys and a girls number, and then a closer, and it's like a 17-minute show where everybody on stage is, you know, singing and dancing for the whole entire time, costume changes, props.
Wow.
It's like a mini Broadway show, but
Ooh.
like
When you're in high school, that's awesome.
when you're in high school, yeah. So that we had to take a class for it when you're in the group, because you have to audition for it. And if you make it to the group, you have to take a class for it. And I loved that so much. The bad thing, though, is that I was doing this film. I was having to leave sometimes during lunch to go film, and then I was missing that class. So it was give and take, but most of filming happened on the weekends. So
Okay. So how many films have you been in?
that's a great question. I've kind of lost track, to be honest with you. I would say feature films, I think I'm on number 6. And then there's various shorts here and there. I don't even know, to be honest with you. That's
Okay. So it just sort of evolved from childhood? Was there a point where you realized you wanted to be an actress? Or is it just, oh, there's another play, I want to go out for it, and it just evolved like that?
Not necessarily just actress. I think I just really loved performing. I loved being in front of an audience, and that was apparent when I was really young because my mom used to tell me I would come in during family gatherings and just, you know, be the center of attention, whether that be just stories I'm doing or if I'm like, hey, everybody, come on, play this game with me, like I'm bored. And it kind of just evolved from there. And since every activity that I did, it was mostly the performing arts category. Like started out with dance, like I said, and then I did baton, and then I did gymnastics.
Do you like theater or film better? Do you
I
still
like
do
musical theater, not normal theater. I like singing is my thing, and I like dancing, and musical theater is what incorporates all of those. So
Okay.
I would say that if we were to just stick within the musical theater category, they're about on par with each other. I love film now that I've gotten into it a lot more, but my first love I think is always going to be musical theater because that's what I did when I was growing up in the summer programs that I did in Michigan.
What are some of the more notable films that you've worked on that I might have seen besides the ones I worked on you with?
Right. There's actually 2 or 3 of my features are on Amazon. My first one, Phantom of the Woods, that I did with Open Sign back in Indiana. I did 2 more features with that same company, and they're all on Amazon. So I would say that those are probably the most well-known. At the moment, I have 2 features that I've done in the past year that are still in post-production. So we're hoping that things will go on to bigger, better things with those projects. But as of right now, they're still in the works, I like to say. So yeah, I would probably say it'd have to be the first 3 features that I did with the company in Indiana because they're all on Amazon. We've gotten some good feedback from them.
How long have you been in Pittsburgh?
It will be 3 years this September officially.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got here right about the same time Shay did.
Yes.
So what's your favorite part of acting? What do you like most about it? Are you like my daughter? My daughter used to, like, when she was a kid, I have films of her, like I'm going around with my, VCR kind of thing, and she would jump in front of the camera. She just wanted to be in front of the camera. It was weird. You like that?
Yes. I would say 100% yes. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a camera. I like the attention. I don't know. Recently, now that I've gotten into more in film and I've been studying it a lot more, I love just diving into a character and just really understanding what they're about and how they work and just getting into their brain and then making that my own.
So do you have to make that up sometimes? Like when you get a script, maybe the writer has gone through that process, but they don't really tell you what that is. You almost have to interpret that yourself, or do you just kind of make it up for yourself, even if the director or the writer hadn't told you the story behind the character? Do you just develop your own?
It depends. Sometimes writers attach what they want the backstory to the character to be, and then they tell you to fill in the blanks. Sometimes they're like, so this is my general idea. Here's the character you're being given. You create the backstory to make it more of your own and to kind of incorporate some of your own mannerisms and stuff into that character to make it more real. So it kind of depends on the person and the director and the writer on how they want you to interpret it. Some people are very strict and they're like, this is the exact vision that I have for this character, try to embody it as best as possible. And there's been a couple of directors that I've worked with who we've done multiple takes because they're like, no, that's not it. That's not it.
That's not her.
That's not her.
Yeah.
You need to be more aggressive here. You need to be sadder. You need to be more like resentful, something along those lines. I'm like, okay.
Do you like that feedback or do you prefer to go out on your own?
I think it kind of, again, depends on the project and the director, because some directors love it when you just go and play and it's just all improv and it's just your natural reactions. And as an actor, sometimes that's freeing and also absolutely terrifying because you just never know what's going to happen. But that honestly, I mean, some of the biggest and most memorable scenes that you see in big films are done that way because a director or camera person has just kept the camera rolling and they're just playing around. And it's like, that's the one. That's what we're keeping. It has nothing to do with the actual script. So yeah, I don't know. That's, for me personally, I would say it's probably a mixture because there's been a couple of times where I've gotten a script really late and I haven't had the opportunity to dissect the character. So having the director or the script supervisor or the writer on set with us being like, well, here's how I kind of envisioned it is helpful because I haven't had the time to do that myself.
You're not a full-time actress, right? You have a day job.
I do have a day job.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, my day job's interesting. I actually went to college for education, specifically elementary education. So that's what my day job kind of consists of now. However, it's a little different because I don't work for a normal, I'm going to put that in quotation marks for people that can't see that.
I can see it.
A normal school, or what people think is a normal school, because I work for like a children's group home, I guess is the best way to describe it. Immigrant minors. So normally my job consists of many things, to be honest. My main job is to teach whatever subject is needed at the time.
Okay.
Because my degree is in all the subjects, I'm certified to teach math, English, social studies, science.
So why didn't you pursue theater if you knew that was your love way back? When is it like you want to pick something practical to fall back on kind of thing?
Yeah, that was the main reason behind it, because I wanted something that I know I'm good at and that in case acting doesn't work out, because we know that it's not the most lucrative job, especially in this given area. I mean, there's ways to do it, don't get me wrong, but if you're not in like LA or Atlanta or New York City, the opportunities aren't as common. I thought, let me go to school for something that I know I could do no matter what happens.
That makes sense.
Yeah. However,
I bet your dad was proud of you on that one.
I mean, that's kind of the track that I was always pushed to go for because it was something that I've always done. So in between all of the performing arts and things that I was doing during school and outside of school, when I was with my grandma during summer vacations and things along those lines, we always did vacation Bible schools together. And I never liked to attend as somebody going to the vacation Bible school. I always like I want to be in charge of this activity. And I don't know if that's because, again, I just want to be like the center of attention. And I know that sounds so conceited, or like just being the leader of something, or if it was just because I just really enjoyed teaching and like guiding people in that sort of way, being a mentor, maybe.
Okay. But if you could, would you like to be a professional actress?
Oh, 100%. Everything that I do outside of my day job is all for my acting career. Everything.
Do you have a plan to make it big?
Not necessarily, because I don't for that to be my end goal. I'm just doing this because I like it, because I love it. And I think that's how it should be. I don't think you should go into something because you want to be famous for it. I think it's more of just because this is your passion and this is something that you really see yourself doing, and that's what's going to produce the best result anyway. If you're really into it and it's something that you're loving, it's not going to seem like work, and it's, people are going to recognize you for it no matter what.
Yeah, but at the same time, being discovered in Pittsburgh, does that take you to LA?
Potentially. I mean, there's a lot of options, especially at this point in my career, because of my age and just from what my acting coach has told me. I'm at kind of a pivot, or a turning point, I guess, in my career right now. So I'm doing my best to follow the guidance that they're giving me to get the outcome that I want.
So there is a plan.
Yeah, I would say yes. Yes, it's a very general plan. I have stepping stones and kind of a guide to get there. Yeah.
Can you share that? Broad strokes. You don't have to get into the details.
No, it's fine. Basically, yes. Right now, I'm working on building up my basic skills across all categories, especially now acting is really competitive in the United States, so you have to be on your A game at all times. So taking acting classes, improv classes. Right now I'm enrolled in an online dance class because dance is something that I've always done. I've gotten away from it for a really long time, so now I'm starting to get back into that. I'm in a choir. I take singing lessons. Like, it's all of those things to kind of build up and hone my skills to then kind of put myself in a nice little neat package so that when I am ready, I can go to the casting directors and the managers and all of those big people in the bigger markets and be able to push myself more and have them actually take me seriously. So I think that's kind of what a lot of people don't realize, that there's so much prep work that goes into being an actor.
I did not realize that. So do you think potential casting directors in the future will look at your resume or your reel more? You have all these activities that build your skills, but do you present that as a resume kind of thing? Or do you present that as like, oh, here I am, just like if you would walk in without those skills and you would go through the same, you know what I'm saying? Like, one's on paper that's going to impress them before you arrive. Right. The other one, you just show up and show them your stuff. Right. But everybody can do that.
Yeah.
So you're thinking your stuff's going to be better than their stuff because of everything you've gone through, right?
That's the goal. That's the hope. That's what every actor wants to happen. Don't get me wrong. There are people that can walk into a room and just wow the casting directors just because they are that talented. And great for you. I wish I was them. However, a lot of the times, even though they do wow the casting directors and things like that, they're still not going to get chosen because they're what casting directors and a lot of professionals like to call too green. So they don't have any experience in the actual industry, meaning they've never been on a set before. They've never been, I guess, on different types of sets. They've never talked to a casting director. They've never been in a makeup chair. They've never done all of the things that actors do or need to do to prepare themselves to be in this type of industry. And so it's a combination, I think, of both of those things. You obviously want to put forth your best face, especially in all of your online presences, such as your reel or a website, which I'm working on, because that's what's going to attract the attention first. And then once you have that attention, then you can slip in, oh, here's my resume. Here's all the things that I'm able to do. This is why you should pick me. It's basically like a job interview.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm a photographer, so I don't know that much about your industry. My studio is above the talent group, so I talk to those guys a little bit here and there, but that's really not the movie industry. That's more like commercials. Do you do commercials?
Yeah, I'm actually repped by the talent group.
Oh, so we could talk about those guys, and we'll do that later.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. How does this happen? I mean, I know there's a million ways for it to happen, but if you want to make it big, are you looking to be hired for one of the movies that comes into town as like a bit part, and then you like make connections with people that will help you in the future? Or like, how do you get discovered off of this? Or was it from all the short films you've done? You hope that somebody sees it and then in a festival and then says, hey, who is that girl. Let's use her. How's it work?
I think it's kind of a bit of both, to be honest, because both are a type of networking. Networking as an actor's that needs to be in your pocket at all times.
This should be video.
Yes, I talk with my hands a lot for everybody that's listening. So I'm definitely more of a visual person.
I'll just narrate it. Go ahead. She just put her hand in her pocket. Go ahead.
But yeah, I think it's definitely a combination. Just from the couple of times that I've been on bigger sets of projects that have come through Pittsburgh, I've made really good connections, and I'm thankful for that. But it's hard because everything now seems to be more social media led. And so a lot of the things and people that I've come in contact with recently have been because they've seen projects I've been on from promotions of film companies that I've been with. So again, like I said, I'm very thankful for all of the people that I've met on, bigger sets and stuff like that. However, I seem to have done better going to networking events, such as things that are posted on certain Facebook groups that I'm a part of.
Like Crew Connect kind of thing?
Like a Crew Connect, yeah, I would say, yep. Or like mixers that we have within the Pittsburgh community, because there's constantly people coming in and out, and coming from around. Pittsburgh's, I guess, the biggest market in this general area. Unless you were to go like east, but then you run into like New York, and then that's massive. So that's like a whole other, that's a whole other animal there.
I used to know a guy. He was the neighbor of my wife, and he was an actor in New York. And we went to visit him one time. So we went to visit him in Manhattan, and he was bartending, right? And it was at this bar right off of Times Square, and I guess a lot of actors hang out there too. But he had done commercials and stuff, and his fellow bartender who left a couple years before was a guy named Bruce Willis. It's like, I mean, what? And this guy, so we're sitting there at the bar, and this guy sits down, and he's like, you could tell he was trying to be cool, which, I'm a little bit older than he is. He's trying to be cool.
Yeah.
But he sits down, he has this black T-shirt, and he has a sport jacket over. It's like, okay. So we start talking. He goes, no, I'm not an actor. I'm a musician. I said to him, have you ever done anything that I might have seen? He goes, yeah, I just got off a world tour with Sting.
Oh,
yeah, and
casual.
It's like, and I didn't know if I really believed him, but, I looked him up, and sure enough.
That's amazing.
What was funny is he said, okay, Sting discovered me. Now I don't know what to do because the tour's over, and like, do I go back to playing bar mitzvahs? It's like he was the lead guitar for Sting for a world tour, and now he's like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So
how do you come back to a quote unquote normal life?
Yeah, hopefully he put some money away.
Yeah, seriously.
So what would be your dream job?
Ooh, that's a great question. My acting coach asked me that too. I think it would be. I have many. I kind of go in phases. We'll put it this way. I go in phases. There's times where I see a film that I really like, and then for a really long time, that's the type of film that I want to be in. So then once that happens, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to move on. What's my next goal? What's my next dream? So when I first started this film thing in high school, jokingly, I was talking to my friends, and I was like, you know what? I think it'd be so interesting to be in a horror movie, because I just want to see what they're like. Like, how are they made? What types of things go into it, and talking about that, and then end up being cast in a horror movie after that. I was like, this makes so much more sense, and now I'm going to go look at horror movies and not feel the same way, because I'm going to be like, okay, I know how that's made, and I know how that's made, and like, or I look at them and analyze them more so than like enjoy them.
It's funny. Shay, we were talking I just interviewed her yesterday, and her interview will probably show up right before yours if I do them in the right order. But anyways, she was talking about this one horror thing she was really proud of, where it was where a guy reaches inside, he pulls staples out of a suturing that he had done, and he reaches in and grabs his guts and he puts it on the floor. And it's like, I had watched that show just like the day before, 2 days before, a week before.
Oh, wow.
And I said to her, it's like most people look away. So it's probably easy to do because it doesn't have to be that detailed. But I've been on shoots with her where, you can get 3 inches away from the slit throat and it still looks like a slit throat.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's phenomenal. She's so talented.
Yeah. I think she should be on the West Coast. I do. I mean, she's one of those people where I think okay, I think she's ready. I think she could make it. Because I've worked with her several times, and it's just scary good stuff. She's so bubbly, too. And you'd think somebody that's into horror, and not only horror, she does this other stuff where, I don't know. I just saw something where there was this woman hanging from her hair. Did you see that on social media?
Yeah, her show that she was talking about, like how to bind your actors or something like that.
I guess I looked at it and didn't read it because it was like, yikes.
Yeah.
That's weird. How do you know if you've made it? Okay, say you get to be 95 years old and you never really made it to Hollywood or never made it to, Broadway. Would you be happy with just doing this to do it?
Yeah, I would, 100%. Again, because this is something that I love doing, so it's an art of mine, so I'm going to do it no matter what, whether I get paid, whether I'm recognized. I mean, that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is making a product and performing the best that I possibly can and bettering myself in my skills and just, putting something out there for people to enjoy.
I just like to be proud of it.
Yeah.
When I do a project and it's a chain, there could be a lot of weak links in that chain. Mm-hmm. But when it comes together and it's something I can be proud of, it's so great. But it bums me out when it's like, oh, shit,
Yeah. When people don't receive it well because it's like, oh, that's my baby. I've spent so much time on that. Huh. And you better like it. Even if you don't like it, don't tell me you don't like it.
Well, that's another thing about this is when someone asks my opinion of it, I right away don't think of telling them all the good things because I think that's a given. You know what I mean? It's like, like I always dwell on the bad stuff, not because I dwell on bad stuff, but because I'm looking at the stuff I want to work on next. Like, okay, how do we improve this? So that's one of the things. So I always have to stop myself before I answer that question because right away I'm thinking, okay, we should have done this, we should have done this, we should have done this, instead of, oh, that was very nice. I like the way, but sometimes I have to.
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to work on myself is just receiving criticisms because recently I've directed my first feature film titled Little Mouse, and that was a roller coaster. I'm happy that principal production's over, needless to say. I mean, that was a 1.5-year project, but even just going through that, there were some things that people, emails that we received, and a lot of it's hard to not take things personally sometimes, especially when you are putting so much of your life, blood, sweat, tears into a project like this because of how important it is to you. And then people, again, don't always receive things well. So that's something that I'm trying to work on is just taking those critiques and letting them roll off,
Hand motion. It's sort of like a Hawaiian thing going.
Yeah. Letting them roll off my shoulders. I'm taking them into consideration and improving myself, obviously, but not letting it bring me down, I guess.
I know what you mean. It's like you put so much time into it. I don't know. I need to work on that too myself.
Yeah.
But the whole thing, I mean, I did one film, and I've mentioned this a couple times on a couple of these podcasts, but I did it over the summer. I'd never done one before. I figured I'd been on a few shoots, and I was at the beach. I hate the beach, so I hired my niece and her friend, and we did this, and it sucked. It was bad. But anyways, I learned a lot, and I really did learn a lot. I didn't know you were a director so much. Like, how many films have you directed? And how'd you get into directing?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. It's funny that you say that. I never really thought of myself as a director, and I still don't, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, working for Little Mouse, and the 2 short films that I directed previously with my partner, Matt Zillick, and we're starting our own production company, hallelujah. But before that, I had the people that I worked with at Open Sign Productions. I worked under the COO of the company for a while and as his assistant, and he always told me, like, you would be such a great director. Like, we need to get you in here and get in and have you direct a project. Like, how would you feel about that? And I kept telling him, no, I'm not ready for that yet. That's not a goal of mine at the moment, and I don't think it ever will be. I just don't picture myself ever being in those shoes.
See, I just can't see someone being drafted as a director. I mean, I see you, like, everybody wants to be the director. Like, out of all these films we've ever done, like, everybody wants to be the director. How'd you get pushed into being a director?
I think it was just because of the person. So I've been working with Matt Zillick for Since 2018. Yes. When he got back into the industry, he did a short film titled Swine Lake, and I just happened to jump on that project. But we were talking before that, and he was sending me all these ideas, and I was like, well, here, I think you should do like this, and I think you should do it like this. And it was kind of just like a mutual understanding between him and I, that I was giving him my advice in the industry that, since I had worked in it for so long at that point, it had been, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And
Is he
was just
primarily
getting
a
back.
writer?
Writer and cinematographer, I think, are definitely
Okay.
his strong suits. So then when we were planning out Little Mouse, it was a lot of creative development. Him writing the whole thing, sending things to me and being like, okay, I'm rereading this part. I think this needs to be expounded on. This needs to be expounded on. And then obviously sending that to other writers because they're actual writers. Like I said earlier, I'm not a writer. Like I have general ideas of how this needs to improve, but I cannot articulate them. So once we got all of that stuff back, he was basically like, what do we need to do to get this off the ground? And I was like, okay, well, we have to do this, and we have to do this, and we have to do this, and we have to do this. And he was like, why don't you just direct this? And I was like, no, I'm not. Like I told you, I don't want to.
Were
I
you,
told
were you
this.
acting in it too?
Yeah. I was originally cast in it before I picked it up as a director, but because him and I had been working on it for so long, I was literally with him from the birth of the concept. Because when I jumped on Swine Lake, which was his comedic horror short that we did back in February or March of 2018, when I jumped on that project, before he even told me that I got the cast in that project, he was already sending me the idea of Little Mouse. And that's how he was like, hey, I want you to be a part of this. I think you would be perfect for this role. And I was like, okay, that's great, but we don't have a story. How is this developing? We don't have a script. We don't have anything. And so he was like, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I'm going to write it down. So he took, I think a couple of months to finally get the whole story out and then sent it to me. And the first draft, I think, was only 40-some pages. And I was like, okay, great start. Let's develop this more. And so, yeah, just over time, we just kept developing it. And we got other people on board and, some big names that I won't name here because I don't want to jinx anything. But people were like, no, this is really promising. We really want you to make this and do this. And we're like, okay, we're doing it. We're just getting in there and just going for it. And so then once that happened, the advice that he was given was like, well, why don't you ask her to be the director? And I was like, do we really want that to happen? This is our first project here. And this is, I know it's our concept, but your concept, you started with this. Are you sure you want to trust me to do that?
That's a big responsibility.
It is. And I was doubting myself. And I went back to the COO of the other company. And so I was like, so you're never going to believe this. And he's like, what happened? Because we're still really good friends. So when I tell him things like that, he freaks out, especially since we don't live near each other anymore. And he was like, what happened? Are you okay? Did you get hurt? All these things going on his head. He was like, do I need to come visit you? I was like, no, calm down. It's okay. I'm just telling you that I'm going to direct my first feature film. And he called me immediately after that. And he was like, are you kidding me? I was like, no, I'm not kidding you. And he was like, you're such a tease. He was like, I've been trying to get you to do this for me for so long. And he was like, now you're doing it and you're not even here anymore. And I was like, I know. I was like, but it's happening and I just wanted you to know so you can get off my back about it now. And so, yeah.
So how'd you do?
I would say that I did pretty well. I think I did pretty well. You would have to ask my cast and my crew to see how they feel about that. But I feel like everyone has done a really good job of supporting me through the process, and I don't know what they say about me behind my back, but at least to my face.
That's true.
They have given me many praises. And I know things aren't perfect. I mean, we know we've all been on those sets where fights happen, people get on each other's nerves.
Really? One of those, huh?
It's just...
What kind of director are you? Are you dictatorial, or do you accept a lot of input?
I'm in the middle.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle.
I bet.
I am. I direct how I teach. So a lot of the times I'm okay with people exploring what they want to explore. And if
Directing
I don't like
teaching.
it kind of is. Yeah, they're very parallel. But yeah, I kind of go, I don't mind if people explore, but if I don't like it, I'm like, no, that's not happening. We're going back to the original, and that's just how it's going to be. Because again, we know a lot of the famous scenes that we all love and we all know happen when people are just playing around and improvising. So sometimes, yeah, those are great. And then other times they're not at all.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you got to have your fun. You got to experiment. Now let's go back to what I want.
Usually it goes the other way around, though. Don't they give you what you want and then they play on the later takes?
Yeah. Well,
Not always, huh?
not always.
Depends on how bossy they are.
It depends on the actor. Sometimes the actors are very aggressive. In this project specifically, we didn't have a whole lot of that going on, which I'm kind of surprised, as this is my first project that I've directed. But I believe I made it a point at the very beginning that I don't mess around. Like, I'm not going to be the type of person that's going to let you walk all over me. That's just how I am in general in my life. And so a lot of the actors that were on set with me, I've worked with previously, so they've had a relationship with me beforehand, so they knew that going into the project, which I think helped a lot. But with that being said, we did have a couple of people that went a little far, and that happens sometimes. We had to reel them back in. It all worked out. And as coming from being an actor myself, I know that there's a fine line you have to walk sometimes, where directors don't always see or can understand the vision that the actor is going for. So sometimes the actor has to present it in a way to be like, hey, like, why don't I try it like this and see what happens? Instead of just being like, no, this is wrong. I'm doing it my way. Yeah.
So do you think that rebellion had anything to do with your sex or your age, being a young female? Do you think that was...
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Well, I'm like, if someone gave you a little bit of shit, is it because they didn't trust you because of your inexperience, or is there? Okay, this is a different question, but do you experience sexism at all in directing or in acting?
Yeah, I have. There was one person in particular that worked on Little Mouse who got under my skin a lot of the time, and unfortunately, things weren't being resolved in the way that I would have liked, even though I took a stand the best that I possibly could. So I had to ask a male staff member to step in, which is unfortunate that that's still happening now. However, I'm glad that the people that were with me there were the ones that were supporting me and could step in to help me. I just wish that wouldn't had to have happened to begin with. I'd say that was my first time that I'd really noticed it, or at least that I've paid attention to it, I guess more so. Because I know it happens on other sets and as an actor and stuff.
Explain to me, because it's funny. Sexism isn't, I don't see it. I mean, first of all, like, I've always been attracted to strong women, so I'm used to them bossing me around. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I just don't see it like I don't see racism. Maybe it's my own little bubble that I'm in. It's quite possible. I just don't see it. But, like, explain to me kind of what it felt like. What was, like, I don't get it. Tell me what it is.
Yeah, no, I'll have to explain the whole situation to really understand. I was just angered. I was so angry because it's like the person that did it, I felt like was just undermining everything that I had worked for at this point. Like, I was not receiving the recognition that I should have received, even though I was, like, my name's everywhere. People know that, like, I'm directing this project. I've posted it on so many different things. It's been in articles. Like, yes, people know. Delaney Hathaway is the director of Little Mouse. So the situation that happened was this person who was a cast member posted all of the projects that he had worked on recently, ours being one of them. All of the projects that he had worked on were written and directed by male people. They were just all male. Every single one of them was on that list was male, including Little Mouse. So, like, Matt Zillick's name was directed, like, this person was directed by Matt Zillick. And so I commented on the post and I was like, hey, love Matt. He's a great person. However, he's not the director of this film. I am like the director. I've spoken to you about this previously. And his response back to that was, well, I've been directed by both you and him, so I guess I'll leave his name up and just put yours next to it. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, no. Granted, yeah, what you're saying is correct. However, Little Mouse was not directed by Matt. You have been directed by Matt in another project, but that's separate thing entirely. So it's like, now I feel like I'm only worth something because my name is attached with Matt Zillick. Not saying that Matt isn't a great guy, because he is. He's my partner. I 100% was like, you know what, it's fine. This is a project, I get that. But in the same sense, I'm like, you need to get your facts straight, because...
Do you think that was sex related, though? Or was it just jerk related?
That's a good question. I feel like sometimes, I don't know, because the person has been condescending to me the whole time.
Is he condescending to other people?
Yes.
Well, that kind of gives you a little bit of not necessarily a sex-related thing then.
No, I don't mean like other people as in like
Other women?
it was mostly other women. It was very much like, oh, you don't understand how this works. Let me mansplain things to you. And I'm like, actually, I've had weapons training before, sir, so I could probably teach this better than you can, but that's fine. Anyway, I was just like to the point where I was like, you know what? I am not this. Pick your battles, right? Pick your battles. Right. This is not one of them.
If you dwell on something like that, it'll just tick you off.
Yeah.
Huh. So tell me about this acting coach, because like I just released 2 podcasts this last weekend and they got really good traffic. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking the traffic is not by filmmakers, but by actors and actresses.
Possibly.
So I want to go more into that with you. Like your acting coach, like I didn't know there was such a thing in Pittsburgh.
There are. However, my acting coach is actually from LA. But she used to live in Ohio, which is how I met her. She has a studio that she comes back to every once in a while outside of Youngstown. I can't remember the name of the town at the moment, but it's outside of Youngstown. So she comes back about 3 or 4 times a year to do in-person classes.
Oh, okay.
But most of her stuff is all online.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that for acting? You just set up a video camera and you do your thing?
Yeah, essentially. Usually it kind of depends. Your acting coach usually comes up with a script for you to work on if you don't have anything to work on yourself. The last couple of times that I've met with her specifically has been to work on scripts of my own, just to kind of, again, get into the character, to feel things out, try things out a different way. Maybe something that she likes to see or that she wants to see that I might not have thought of, things along those lines. So it's interesting, though, because I definitely think I respond a lot better in person than I do via video chats. So it's been a challenge.
Yeah, I would think online you miss a lot of subtleties. You're not doing close-ups, you're probably doing wide so you can, or at least waist up or something.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot that you miss.
Yeah.
So is there a big difference between stage acting and film? I mean, what's the big difference? If you're an actress just getting into this and like you're trying to explore which one you might like better, like what are the real differences in acting? Are there any?
Yes, definitely. I would say that stage acting it gives you, at least for me, this is personal, gives you a little bit more of a thrill. It's a little bit more exciting because it's live. So you can't really make mistakes. Like you have to know what you're talking about, what comes next. You have to really listen to the other person and really be in character for the entire 2-hour performance, which is something that's totally different from film, because film, if you make a mistake, you can just redo it. However, in that same regard, with film, you really have to know the timeline of the project that you're working on, because things are not shot linearly. Whereas on stage, you start from the beginning, you go all the way through, and then it's done. Film is not like that. You could be filming a scene that takes place towards the end of the movie, the first 2 days on set. And
so you have to put your brain in that mindset of where you are in the plot.
Yes.
That's it. I didn't think of that.
Yes, which is, I think, why sometimes people prefer stage, because for that 2 hours, whatever your character is, whatever mood that they're in, you're just in it for that 2 hours. Whereas film, a lot of the times, takes place over several weeks, sometimes months. So you have to be in that state of mind for a much more extended period of time. And especially if it's a role that's a little bit more risky, I would like to say. Being in that state of mind can really hurt your psyche sometimes. There was an actor that I worked with, actually out of Manhattan, who was playing a villain in a film that I'm in called Vert, and he was telling me that when he was researching his character, I mean, he was really getting into it. He was looking up serial killers with how their minds work, how they live.
Got to watch his Google search, huh?
Right? Literally. And I was telling my friends recently that when I first met him, and this was before the project had started, when I first had spoken to him, he was a really outgoing, bubbly kind of guy and real easy to talk to. And then when we came back to set, we were on set together for 4 days, and it was all of his big, psycho scenes, I like to say. It was like he was a totally different person. I haven't yet experienced a role like that where I've had to kind of totally change my whole demeanor, but just seeing it from him, it was very eye-opening when we talked after the film took place, he had stated that, sometimes he could feel himself slipping into that kind of antisocial, I don't want to be around people
Hopefully he came out of that.
Oh, he did. He did now. Yes. Yeah, he's 100% okay now. Yeah, he's actually doing a war movie at the moment, so I don't know what his mind is at the moment, but yeah, he's a really talented guy.
So how do you handle those awkward scenes where you have to kiss a total stranger or something like that? That has to be weird.
Oh, man. Yes, it is. I don't really know how to answer that because I think it kind of depends on the person.
You mean if the guy's hot, it's not so bad? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Okay.
not necessarily that, like the actor themselves, because some people have no qualms about it. It doesn't bother them at all. And for me, it's hard because I'm getting married. And so like I have to tell my fiance when that happens in a project to be like, hey, I'm just letting you know that like this scene exists. So when this film comes out, you're not surprised by it, you know? And I tell him that ahead of time because a lot of the times we go to rehearsals and you have to rehearse those scenes.
Right.
So it's not like it's just, oh, that one time you see it on screen is the only time it's happening.
And unless it's a first kiss, it can't be because like when people are used to kissing each other, then it's a natural thing. Whereas if you were filming a first kiss that wasn't supposed to be a first kiss, it would be like really awkward, I think. It would like, you almost have to practice that.
Yeah, you do because it's like...
Right, like what side your nose go on kind of thing.
Yep. So it's different. It's different. I can say that the first time that happened to me, I was in college. The person that I was acting with, it was in a short film, a dramatic short film about Alzheimer's. So it was very like heartfelt production. And the actor that I was working alongside of, this was his first production, his first project all together. So I actually asked him, I was like, hey, like, why don't you and I get together so we can kind of just go through this, get this whole thing out of the way? Because I feel like if this were to come up on set and like you're not comfortable with it, it's going to be a long night. And so, yeah, we ended up having our own rehearsals and going through all of that just to kind of calm him down. And then once that happened and we were comfortable with each other,
So did you guys like do it and then look at each other and giggle? Is that like...
Kind of, essentially. I mean, it was like one of those things where like, we might as well just get it over with. Like that's how the conversation went is with, we were like, okay, so we know this is happening. We know that we have to be like laying bed next to each other. So I was like, we just need to get this over with. Like just kiss me so you're not nervous about it. Because at this point, you putting it off is making it worse. And so he was like, yeah, that's true. So it happened. And then after that, we were like, okay, yeah, that wasn't that big a deal. Which it's really not. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Right. Is it a big deal to your fiancé? Is he a little bit on the jealous side?
He's not at all. He's the most opposite.
See, I would have been...
Yeah. The person that I was dating at the time of the first kissing that I was just talking about, though, very jealous. So when I told him that was happening, he was like, I'm not comfortable with that. And I was like, well, we're both actors, so we might as well just get over it, because...
He was an actor too?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he was going to do it.
That's what I told him. And well, he's a theater actor too. And I was like, you do realize that you're a theater actor, right? Like this, like you have to do this in front of people, like on stage. Like.
Yeah, but it's so far away. It's not like, usually when you do kiss, it's like pretty close up usually. Mm-hmm. So that'd be worse, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the cameras are always in your face when it happens. Right there.
Let's just go somewhere else. Okay.
He was like, should I open up this can of worms?
No, let's not. You've been doing this for a while now. Say there's a young lady right out of high school or still in high school that thinks she might want to be an actress. What advice would you give her about getting into the industry?
I would honestly say the best piece of advice would just to start out small, but also go for it in the same sense. Working on projects like student films or small independent films just to gain the experience and to see if that's something that you even want to do, because those are the stepping stones that are going to get you to bigger projects. They can be eye-opening, though, in the same sense, because some small productions don't always run smoothly. I mean, productions in general don't always run smoothly, but when you have a smaller crew, it's more, I'd like to say, a little bit more intimate. Things, you might not have all of your crew members that you're used to seeing on big productions, but how things run are usually the same. You have to learn your script, you have to do the rehearsals, you have to know your lines, You're going to possibly be taking, 4 or 5, maybe 20 some odd takes of a scene because things just aren't working out. All the basics are there, and you can learn so much just being on set in that regard also. And if you're going to be in Pittsburgh, just do background work. Be on a big set like that, because you're going to learn so much just from seeing how big professional people do it. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I was an extra. The guys downstairs at the talent group, it was on my bucket list. I said, okay, get me on a film, because that's on my bucket list. And I was an extra all day. I froze my ass off outside, underdressed for the pickle movie.
Oh, I heard about that.
Were you on the pickle movie?
I did not do that one. I did not.
So I may or may not show up. If I do show up, it'll be for a good 0.5 seconds, maybe.
No, I've only been on an extra here on one project, and that was when they were doing the Mr. Rogers film.
You were on that?
Mm-hmm. And you can see my face, like clear as day.
Really?
Yeah.
What scene? I'll have to look it up.
The wedding scene where the fight breaks out.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did you start the fight?
I did not start the fight. Okay. I was just being a nosy wedding guest.
Did you have to get dressed up and everything? Like you were at a wedding? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I was in like a sport jacket, but it was like 30 degrees out, and I was freezing my butt off all day. I just had to walk by.
That's it.
I walked by.
Yeah.
And then on the close-ups, you know how they do wides and then tights? On the tight one, they didn't even have me go through for some reason. Maybe like they got too close to my face and they realized it wasn't very good looking.
I doubt that.
So what's something you've just learned recently about acting? You know how like we're on a learning curve kind of thing, and it's like there's an epiphany it's like, oh man, that's so simple. Why didn't I realize that earlier? Is there anything like that you can think of?
Acting specifically, I would say that something that surprised me was just knowing your camera angles and like where to place your head so you can be camera recognized, like
What?
face recognized.
Wait. I don't understand this. This is something you're going to teach me. Go ahead.
Okay. So when you're on set, you have to be cognizant of how many cameras there are, whether that be 1, 2, or 3.
How many 3 cameras jobs have you been on?
Just the Mr. Rogers one. That was the only one, the big project one. I've been on a couple of 2 camera sets, but mostly it's just been 1.
Which do you prefer?
2, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because it doesn't require me to go through scenes multiple times to get 5,000 different angles.
Right. And then you don't have to worry about continuity as much and all that. Yeah.
Yep. That's what we try to do in Little Mouse, going back to that, just because I'm like...
Oh, so you had 2 cameras on that?
We tried to. Was not successful. Sometimes, yes. Not always. Yeah, sorry. Going back to what we were saying. Knowing where your camera is, what angle it's at, where you need to be, whether that just because you're a background actor or, have a small role or whatever. They're not lying when they say that the camera really does put on like 10 pounds. And so if you can make yourself look the best you can by knowing where your camera
Does that
angles,
mean like all the background actors are all like looking towards camera or something? Or, I mean, it's like, since I do commercial photography, I have to make things look natural a lot of times. So one thing I find is you want people not facing the camera. You want people looking away. You want them you don't want them to be like their best angle or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say you want to be at your best angle. It's just more of like, so if the camera is, I'm on my right, for example, and the scene that we're in is the scene how we're talking right now. This side profile of my face, yeah, great. However, I can cheat myself ever so slightly, and you can see more of my side of my face. Like, I'm still looking in this general direction, and I'm still making eye contact with you, but my face is now more recognizable because the camera's over here, and it's seeing 3/4 of my face rather than just this.
See, I thought you were playing to the light.
That too.
Actually, from this angle, with the light being over there, you get sort of a Rembrandt lighting. If you cheat that way a little bit, oh yeah, that's better. So that's something you just learned recently?
Yeah, I would say within the last year. It's something that I've definitely been trying to practice more too, because I do modeling and stuff on the side as well.
Let's talk about modeling. I didn't know you were a model.
But
How tall are you?
5'6" on a good day.
When I have heels.
Yes, no, a lot of the time I'm wearing chunky heels like I have on, y'all can't see this, but I have on right now chunky heels on. But yeah, it's more print modeling though than anything, because again, with angles and lighting, you can cheat a lot of that stuff. You're a photographer.
Well, you have a really flexible day job, right? You said you work 3 days a week.
Currently, yeah, with this whole virus thing going on, I work 3 days a week. Normally, it's 5 days.
Okay. Then what happens if you get a modeling gig on Tuesday?
My boss is fantastic, and she lets me go.
Oh, great.
Yes. It's kind of nice. I was very honest and upfront when I first got hired at this job about the likelihood of me being on jobs that take place during the week. Them not being common. It's not something that I would do all the time because obviously I know my day job is the priority. That's how I'm making my income, and I have to treat everyone else that's working there obviously fairly. It wouldn't be fair if I'm like taking off 2 or 3 days every week for something, outside of my normal job.
I think that's one of the keys to like trying to be serious about acting or modeling is you have to have a flexible other job.
Yeah.
Because that's like mandatory.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I am very grateful for my boss in that she is very understanding of situations across the board. It's not just myself. I mean, anytime anybody has something that they need to do, she's very understanding about that. So the whole company in general is honestly a great company to work for. So I'm very lucky that that's the first job that I found when I got to Pittsburgh.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you seem to get typecast in any way? Like what roles are you usually selected for? Like an alcohol? Oh, you weren't the alcoholic on that one.
No, I was not. I kind of seem to get typecast more as like the girl next door roles. I'm trying to get out of that. I've played...
You don't want to be the grandmother though, right?
No. I mean, unless I was in some I don't know, maybe. If I would in like some good makeup and things, like that would be a challenge. It'd be kind of fun. No, Jason Burke, which I believe you've interviewed him as well, worked on a short film with him and Matt Dialis for the 3K Film Festival last year. And Jason Burke is a phenomenal writer. And he wrote the script and made my character psychotic, which I was so thankful for because it's something that I wasn't used to playing normally.
You didn't know you were a psychotic till the end of that though, right?
Correct.
That was good. I remember that one.
Yes.
You know what's good about Jason's work? Mm-hmm. He writes good endings.
Yes.
There's a lot of writers that have this great plot going along, and then at the end, I'm just sort of not satisfied.
Yeah.
But with Jason, it's like, it's always a boom.
Yes. Yes. I've had the pleasure of working with him now on 3 separate projects, 2 being his or a collaboration of his own, and then 1 being.
So do you find yourself working with the same crews over and over?
I feel like it's not ever all the same people. Like there might be like 2 people from a crew that I've worked on another thing and then mixed with another 2 crew people from another project here and there, and then they all come together and then we're all one crew here.
It's a really small community like that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of one of the reasons I'm doing this, because I want to meet new people and maybe work with people I haven't worked with before. And maybe like if someone didn't know you, that they'll get to know you through this and maybe want to hire you for this. Are you making any money at this?
Sometimes. It's kind of a hit or a miss. At this point in my life, I'm not against or opposed to taking on projects that aren't paid, but I definitely am searching for projects that have some sort of stipend, more so.
Right. I mean, we put in a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed that, like, when I got into this a year and a half or so ago, like, I'm looking around and there's like 12 people and they're working their ass off for 12 hours and like nobody's getting paid.
Right.
Like, why are we doing this?
Right. Right. Kind of seem insane sometimes, you know? Yeah, I agree with you.
But all the actors I've asked, they just put it down to, I'm building a reel. You know, I'm trying to get going at this. I enjoy it, first of all.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get a reel together. And I'm willing to do this, and who knows what this will lead to. It's just an investment.
Yeah, that's exactly how a lot of us look at that. This is just an investment for our future, again, because we're gaining experience, we're gaining possibly real footage, you know, networking, all of that. So, yeah, that's how I've been looking at it a lot.
I've been doing the sound, and it's like, I don't know if I'd ever want to make it big, because when you make it big in sound, you work in Video Village as a sound mixer, and it's not even there. What I tell you, with you and Brian on a couple of these scenes, like there was some magical shit going on there. It was really some great stuff.
Thank you.
And what was nice is I'm in there with a boom like 3 feet away from you, and I get to experience that. And I really love that. So, I mean, I don't know if I want to get away from that kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff. I wouldn't want to get too, like, I wouldn't want to work on a feature every day for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, be back in Video Village. I think that would be torture.
Right.
But-
You'd want to be like where the action is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like these little projects.
Yeah.
And I like doing corporate stuff because you get paid.
Right.
But
There's a balance.
yeah, I think if you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I really do like sound because of that being right there too. And there's a craft to it where there's difference between good sound and bad sound. I mean, everybody knows that. But good sound and great sound, trying to get the difference there, like nobody even really knows most of the time unless you're another sound guy sometimes. But that's a challenge too, and I really like that. It's fun.
That's good. Yeah.
I am amazed though at like how this is a small community. Like I feel like I know about 60% of the people. How many would you guess you know? What percentage?
I would say that I know probably about the same online. Have I met them in person? That's a different story. There's been so many people recently that have reached out to me online and have been like, so I've been following you for a while and I'm like really impressed by your stuff. We have to meet in person. And I'm like, great, yeah, let's make that happen. But then when it never actually gets to that point.
Right.
And so times when on these small productions that I get to meet somebody new and network with them and been like, oh my gosh, yes, we're Facebook friends. It's nice to finally meet you.
Me too.
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
Who are some of your favorite actors to work with?
Ooh. One recently that I've worked with who's new and young, and I hope she goes and does amazing things in her life. Her name's Ashley Williams. She was the star, the lead in our production of Little Mouse. And I cannot say enough things about her, like wonderful things about her. When we were going through the whole process of casting people, we did our casting process in phases. And the first phase was submit yourself, and then we send you sides, and then we want you to send us back a video reel or a video of you reading those sides. And when she sent back the video, I was lucky that we even saw it because it popped up on my thing, and I put her in a folder like, yes, we want to ask her back. And then something happened and disappeared. Matt didn't even see her. He had when she came in for callbacks, he was like, who are you talking about? And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, when I saw her audition video, I was literally like, she's the one. Like, I already know. And sorry to all of the other people that auditioned. I apologize if you're going to listen to this. In my mind, I was just like so blown away. And then she came back for callbacks, and there's 5 of them, 5 people that came back for callbacks. And everybody that came back for callbacks for her role did phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. It was just, and she came in, I was just like mesmerized.
Really? How old is she?
Mesmerized. She just turned 23.
Okay.
She just graduated from school last year. And yeah.
Where'd she go to school by chance?
Point Park for theater.
I did a couple of projects for the CMU actors. I was amazed at how good they were.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
I'm
just
not
like,
surprised. Yeah. Right.
I was really impressed. That was cool.
That's how I feel about with her. Like, she's just phenomenal.
So she's local now?
She is currently, not for much longer. She's transporting. She's going to be transplanted to Atlanta.
She's going to be transported?
She's going to be transported. No, she's going to move. She's leaving us. And I'm sad, but I'm happy for her at the same time. But yeah, she's going to go to Atlanta to try out that market. And, hopefully things will work out for her there. I mean, she 100% deserves it. She can go so many places. She's phenomenal.
Why Atlanta?
I don't know. I think that's just where she feels that the market would best fit her.
Because I did a couple of projects with the CMU class, and one was at the very end of their school year, and they were all seniors, and half of them were going west, half of them were going east. Nobody was going south that I knew of. They were all like either they want to be stage actors in New York or they wanted to be actors in LA.
I feel like people kind of overlook Atlanta for a lot of things. Atlanta's really big right now in TV. Huge. A lot of major programs that people watch are filmed in Georgia. I don't think people realize that. Georgia and New Mexico.
They have a tax credit thing like we do, right? And that's what makes them so popular.
Yeah, I think it's better than ours, actually. So,
What makes you accept or reject a project when it's offered to you?
I like to be able to read part of it before I accept or reject, because I want to know if it's something that feels right for me. There was a project recently that somebody had sent me that said they were looking for a young mom to play in the role, and I was like, oh, it sounds interesting. Like, do you have a script? Like, would I be able to read the script? And they sent me the script, and granted, it's funny, but it's not me. Like, I don't think I would have been able to be in that role and do it justice for what it needed. So
Just because it was a comedy?
not just because it was a comedy, just going through and reading it. I don't know how to best explain this, I guess. Going through and reading it, I just didn't feel like it fit with whom I'm trying to market myself as, I guess is probably the best way to describe that. And that's happened to a couple of times where, I've given the script compliments and I'm like, this is great. I just don't think I'm your actor. And it's just a personal thing. Sometimes you just know and whether it's going to be, something you're going to enjoy doing or it's going to be not something you're going to enjoy doing. And it's hard sometimes because you make those decisions not knowing the outcome. Sometimes the outcomes are great and a lot of people really enjoy them. And then other times you're like, yeah, I'm really glad I didn't do that. So yeah, it's more of just, I think it comes kind of just down to what personal, like if it feels good for you, do it. If not,
Do you stay away
pass.
from comedies?
No. Well,
Have you done a comedy? I think that'd be the toughest to do.
comedic timing is definitely an art form. I will give them that. And I know that that's not necessarily my strong suit. I'm not a good improviser, and I feel like a lot of comedy is improvisation. However, this wasn't. This was just the way it was written. It was just written to be funny. I mean, all of the lines and stuff that were in there were just funny, and just reading it, it was just comedic. I just think it was just too much for me, and too much as in there was a lot going on in the story in such a short amount of time. So for me, I was like, that's a little bit of a turnoff. I don't think I would want my name attached to that. There's been a couple of other projects that have been like that too, and not necessarily because the script itself is not good, but it's the person that I've been talking to about it. I'm like, you and I aren't vibing. I would rather get along with the person that's going to be directing me if we're going to have to be together for, however long it's going to take to finish the project, than be solely deciding, yes, I want to do this project because, yeah, great film.
So do you have any advice for directors about working with actors? Do you see someone, I wish you would do this, or, you know what I mean? I know it's individual, but overall, is there an overall advice you'd give a new director for working with actors?
I would say that keep in mind that you are the director no matter how much an actor's pushing back. Because sometimes, that happens. There are actors who are they're just aggressive, and that's not anything wrong. It's just that they're very passionate about what they're doing and they want to interpret, the script or whatever they're reading in a specific way, and it might not be the best way. So you as a director have to be like, listen, great, you have wonderful ideas, and I love the way that you're interpreting this. However, for this specific scene, it needs to be like this instead. We have to try it like that. And they're going to respect you as long as you present it to them in a way that's not condescending or rude. I feel like I've worked with some directors that don't mean to come across that way, but it's just that they're frustrated or something happens, things come out. And as an actor, when you're trying to be in some sort of mood, for example, and then their criticism comes or harsh words come at you, and it totally changes how you feel.
It takes you out of the moment.
Yeah,
huh?
It does. It takes you out of the moment. So I definitely say that remember that you're the director, but definitely keep in mind how you present yourself is a big deal.
Don't take them out of the moment.
Try to not take them out of the moment. Okay. Unless the moment is really bad and they're just not getting what you want, then yes, definitely take them out of the moment. But that then lies in your director lines, and you'd be like, you're doing great, but we need to try it like this instead.
Okay. Are there any people, don't name names or anything, but are there people that you won't work with anymore? Uh-huh. Like if you've had experiences.
Yes. Yes.
A number, 3, 5.
Do I want to say this out
Don't
loud?
say any names.
I don't want to say names.
Or
I just
projects
don't.
even.
No, I don't want to say that either. I would say it's probably, oh God, it's probably close to like 10 people.
Really?
Yeah.
Am I one of them? No, just kidding.
No, if you were, I would not be here right now. Yeah, no, I would say it's about 10 people. I
Wow,
think.
that's a pretty big blacklist.
Yeah, but that's including from when I started, when I was 16 to now 25. So that's a span of 9 years.
So you have to ask a lot of questions. I mean, I'm assuming that they're not all directors. I'm assuming some might be other actors and one's that
Actors,
guy. That,
crew members.
that-
It's a list.
Huh, crew members too. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I know like the people that I'm referencing specifically no longer work for the companies or on film projects, at least within the relative area that I'm in. So
Now,
I would never run into them again, but
So do you think those people know that you wouldn't work with them again?
yeah. I'm not shy about it.
I think your emotions are pretty transparent.
Yes. I would say maybe not all of them, because especially I'm still green. I'm still very green. However, when I was first starting out, super, super green. I wasn't trying to burn any bridges. So there's probably a couple of them when I'm in the old company back in Indiana that don't know that. However, I would have no qualms telling them that now. Like being like, I know my value and I know what I stand for, and what you're doing is not in line with that. So,
Right.
yeah, I would not mind having a conversation with that now and just talking that out. But
Overall, I think that most of the people I've met here are just really good people.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority, for sure.
yeah.
There's a couple of jerks you run into, but most of the people are just out to have a good time.
yes,
Like
yes.
we're all not making money. We're all just like, why would you be miserable and do this for free?
Mm-hmm.
You could be, miserable and getting paid. I can understand that maybe, but
Oh yeah, which sometimes happens too. But the vast majority is 100% fun.
right. So how do you improve your skills as an actress? You have an acting coach, I know, but besides that, are there things you do, places you go to research or?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like as an actor, you're constantly researching, reading monologues, reading plays, short scripts, practicing just doing scenes. Lately, it's been mostly practicing the scene, filming it, just to see how I come across on camera.
Oh, really? You film your own stuff?
Well, just for practice purposes. I don't actually, I can't operate a camera besides my phone and the digital camera that I have on my tripod. That's basically it. But yeah, just to see how my mannerisms are coming across. One thing that I've been told to work on, because I do talk with my hands a lot, as you can see, I tend to be very big because my background is in theater. And we all know that when you put things closer to the camera, the bigger they get. And so my hands are already large as is.
I didn't notice until you mentioned it.
They are very large. So therefore, when I'm talking with my hands, I literally have to keep them so close to my body when I'm on camera.
That seems odd that you even think about that.
It does, but I've noticed that it comes across so much on camera. When somebody pointed it out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. And it's funny to me because it's something that I think most people wouldn't necessarily notice, but because I use my hands so much in communication and they kind of attract attention, the more that I do it, the more people are like, okay, reel that in a little bit. So yeah, I've been really conscious about stuff like that.
Well, you being a director, you understand that that's a lot of that's lens driven,
Yes.
right? Wide angle. It's like you don't want to do that. Telephoto stuff, you do it all you want. It won't matter.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, there was a scene that we were shooting for Little Mouse and there was supposed to be 3 people on frame. And for the life of me, no matter where I placed one of our actors, I was just like, I'm not trying to be mean here, but I was like, you just look
Big.
You did. Yes, you did. She did. And I was just like, it's nothing against you because you're not in any shape or form big, but just you're coming across that way on camera. So it's like, we have to figure this out. Whether that mean we're pushing you two back further or putting you in the middle. I was like, it took so long. I think the scene only had maybe 3 or 4 lines of dialogue in total, but it just looked bad. I was like, okay, we got to figure this out.
Well, your cinematographer friend should have pulled you out of that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we were
But
trying all the combinations to figure out what was best, but
But I could see that as a director, like a mistake a newbie director would make kind of thing. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely helps too that the cinematographer is also the person editing it. So like sometimes when I was like, is this going to be in my head? Like, should I not worry about this? Because are you going to be able to edit this out? And he's like, yeah, don't worry about that. And I was like, cool, we're going to move on then.
It's one of those things too. If it's you with your hands, you won't be able to look at it objectively. You'll think of that right away and think, oh, my hands, where everybody else might not even notice.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
We're our own worst critics sometimes.
Okay, so are you working on any projects right now?
Yeah, 2. One is still Little Mouse because we're in post-production, so we're just kind of going through all of our footage and trying to get things best in order as possible, just to see if we need to make up any scenes or do reshoots or any of that stuff. Granted, when this virus lifts and we are allowed to do that. And then the next project I'm working on is called Spellbound. It is with a young and relatively new cast. The only other person that I know of that's working on it's actually Christina. So her and I are playing, I think, best friends. Best friends are sisters. But it's very interesting because I don't want to give anything away. It's really cool. I'm excited for it. I'm playing a dark character, which is opposite of what I normally play. So I'm really looking forward to this role, and I'm hoping it goes well. We're going to work on our pilot once things get back up and running, and then shop that around hopefully, and then if we can gain some interest, we're going to try and make it into like a web series.
Who was I talking to? I think it was PJ was saying, everybody's doing web series. Nobody's watching web series.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because depending on who picks them up, I think is where things get kind of tricky because like Facebook has their own web series categories where they're producing, where they have their own like TV. It's a lot of just like short videos, but it's full on scripts and like storylines. Like YouTube has their own, like there's a lot of platforms right now that are showing web series that.
I'll have to look into it. What's weird is like, I don't even like film really. Like
really, I
see all these short films unless I see somebody I know in them or it's like really amazing. I won't spend the 5 minutes usually. I'll probably cut that. I'm cutting that. But
but I understand what you're saying.
I like the craft of capturing sound and I like story. I mean, I've done a lot of reading on story. That just fascinates me. I don't know. So if somebody wants to reach you, how do they go about that?
They can check out all of my social media channels. I don't have a website yet. Facebook is acting as my actor website. My acting page is my first name and my last name, Delaney Hathaway. And my Instagram's tagged in that. My Actors Access is tagged in that. Pretty much anything that you would need to know or want to know about me and my acting abilities is on my Facebook acting page.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, is there any parting advice you'd like to just give the indie filmmaking community in general? Words of wisdom from Delaney Hathaway.
Words of wisdom. Oh, man, I am so bad when it comes to stuff like this. Words of wisdom. I would say just keep producing your content and just putting it out there and making art. I mean, whether people look at it or not, it doesn't even matter. If you enjoy it and it's something that you want to do and you're passionate about it, just do it.
Ooh, that was good. Well, thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, thanks for listening. If you found us on our webpage, please leave a comment and let us know what you think. If you found us on iTunes or Spotify and you like the show, please leave a rating or review. And whatever you do, hit the subscribe button. Thanks again, and we'll be here next week with another episode.